Hello. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Dear Esther. A fun little game in which one just enjoys a nice little scene. This is not running as it should be. Yeah. That is extremely odd. Is it because I'm not clicked on the window?
Lowest of the miserable classes that
I'm
populate
a
these
fucking moron. Okay. What is that? That is weird. That is some weird staticky sounds. Okay. Let's try this again. There we go. Take two of Dear Esther.
The gulls do not land here anymore. I've noticed that this year they seem to shun the place. Maybe it's the depletion of the fishing stock driving them away. Perhaps it's me. When he first landed here, Donnelly wrote that the herds were sickly and their shepherds the lowest of the miserable classes that populate these Hebridean islands. 300 years later, even they have departed.
So let's just explore this creepy abandoned lighthouse, because why not? A very weird chemical compound. I forget what that compound is. I think it was like rocket fuel or something. Yeah, just soak it in. Look at how eerie this place must have been. Hello? Must have been the house settling. Whoa! Seagull! Trying to assassinate me, you are. Now, this game has some creepy vibes to it, and that just makes it even more beautiful. And that is not how you treat a toilet. That's just how you get ashamed after a long night. And look at all this paint. Someone must have been doing something. And there's our goal in the distance. Just a big red light. Heralding our arrival, and also heralding our destination. There is nothing to fear in this world.
Donnelly reported the legend of the hermit, a holy man who sought solitude in its most pure form. Allegedly, he rode here from the mainland in a boat without a bottom, so all the creatures of the sea could rise at night to converse with him. How disappointed he must have been with their chatter. Perhaps now, when all that haunts the ocean is the rubbish dumped from the tankers, he'd find more peace. They say he threw his arms wide in a valley on the south side, and the cliff opened up to provide him shelter. They say he died of fever 116 years later. The shepherds left gifts for him at the mouth of the cave, but Donnelly records they never claim to have seen him. I have visited the cave and I have left my gifts, but like them, I appear to be an unworthy subject of his solitude.
Hermits have been proven throughout history to not really want attention. Don't worry, I'm just gonna break my legs while I try to climb down here. Oh, one of the best parts about this game is if you go into the ocean, go too deep and, well, you'll see. You get images of what looks like the Eiffel Tower and a couple boats for some reason, and it's just a horrifying sight. Some crab traps. Fishermen were here not long ago. And now we could go down there.
When you were born, your mother told me, a hush fell over the delivery room. A great red birthmark covered the left side of your face. No one knew what to say, so you cried to fill the vacuum. I always admired you for that you cried to fill whatever vacuum you found. I began to manufacture vacuums just to enable you to deploy your talent. The birthmark faded by the time you were 6 and had gone completely by the time we met, but your fascination with the empty and its cure remained.
So obviously this guy has been a researcher or something about this Esther. And this Esther,
a wonderful sight. The moon cresting the junction between the cliff path and the stone circle. It cast a shadow of the ridge across the beach, all the world as if you had signed your name in untidy handwriting.
Just enjoy it. But yeah, this Esther sounds like a really influential person to have affected this researcher, so... Crying out to fill the void. Or maybe it was a telephone.
When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or a fishing boat, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this, to keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh.
What is it an infection of, then? An infection of the mind? Did you know you were so crazy that you came here to die? To let exposure take you before it was too late.
I quote directly, a motley lot with little to recommend. I have now spent 3 days in their company. That is, I fear, enough for any man not born amongst them. Despite their tedious inclination to quote scripture, they seem to me the most godforsaken of all the inhabitants of the Outer Isles. Indeed, in this case, the very gravity of that term, forsaken by God, seems to find its very apex. It appears to me that Donnelly, too, found those who wander this shoreline to be adrift from any chance of redemption. Did he include himself in that, I wonder?
Sounds like this place is where islanders or crazy people go to die before they let the insanity affect.
Dear Esther, I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life.
their sounds. Let's investigate this cave. We saw a light flickering
I find
over
myself
here.
increasingly unable to find that point where the hermit ends and Paul and I begin. We are woven into a sodden blanket, stuffed into the bottom of a boat to stop the leak and hold back the ocean. My neck aches from staring up at the aerial. It mirrors the dull throb in my gut where I am sure I've begun to form another stone. In my dreams, it forms into a perfect representation of Lot's wife, head over her shoulder, staring along the motorway at the approaching traffic in a vacuum of fatalistic calm.
Someone left their campsite in a hurry. And look, they were drinking more paint. A tree diagram. Perhaps Yggdrasil, the tree of life. Or perhaps these symbols are a neuron. Perhaps those symbols are a neuron to give us a brief insight into what's going on this place. And that is that this guy is going insane. And he is researching the last place where all these crazy people went before they died. Oh good, handrail. But it's barbed. That is like counterintuitive safety right there. But if you were crazy, barbed wire would be just as much of a safety as a non-barbed wire, wouldn't it? Just think about that for a
I
minute.
stood in the center of the sun, and the solar radiation cooked my heart from the inside. My teeth will curl and my fingernails fall off into my pockets like loose change. If I could stomach, I'd eat, but all I seem capable of is salt water. Were the livestock still here, I could turn feral and gorge. I'm as emaciated as a body on a slab, opened up for a premature source of death. I've rowed to this island in a heart without a bottom, all the bacteria of my gut rising up to sing to me.
So he is trying to die. A tragic, tragic tale. Ah, look, there's more. It's more chemistry. Chemistry is always a good thing to indulge in. Discovering how two things make another. But what type of chemistry were they performing here? I wonder.
Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the M5 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times. But although I have all the reports and all the witnesses, and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my Ordnance Survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn-off for Sanford and the welcome brake services. But although I can always see it in my rear-view mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull ashore.
Unable to drive somewhere. And yet, wanting it to be a place you go. A terrible tragedy. As tragic as this boat wreck over here. A thing that is slowly turning into insanity, even as we approach it. For it is like a video game, in which you cannot defeat the final boss, and so you just crash ashore, scattering the cargo crates full of your sweet, sweet loot. And now the only thing that picks through the remains of your save file are data animals, hoping to get some scrap of what was.
There must be a hole in the bottom of the boat. How else could new hermits have arrived?
Interesting diagrams. But what does he mean by a hole in the bottom of the boat? New hermits could easily arrive by stowing away on board these crates.
I had kidney stones, and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic, your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk.
So this Esther must have been hit by a car. Maybe one that the narrator was driving.
What charnel house lies at the foot of this abyss? How many dead shepherds could fill this hole?
Oh, let's find out.
Come back.
It is not our time yet to dive into the abyss. It will be soon. It will be soon, but not now.
I've begun my ascent on the windless slope of the western side. The setting sun was an inflamed eye squeezing shut against the light shone in by the doctors. My neck is aching through constantly craning my head up to track the light of the aerial. I must look downwards, follow the path under the island to a new beginning.
That looks like a weird shape up ahead.
The bothy was constructed originally in the early 1700s. By then, shepherding had formalized into a career. The first habitual shepherd was a man called Jacobsen, from a lineage of migratory Scandinavians. He was not considered a man of breeding by the mainlanders. He came here every summer whilst building the bothy, hoping eventually that becoming a man of property would secure him a wife and a lineage. Donnelly records that it did not work. He caught some disease from his malcontented goats and died 2 years after completing it. There was no one to carve white lines into the cliff for him either.
Well, let's explore. There was a shape that moved in here. Let's explore what's in here.
3 cormorants seen at dusk. They did not land. This house built of stone, built by a long-dead shepherd. Contents: my camp bed, a stove, a table, chairs, my clothes, my books. The caves that score out the belly of this island, leaving it famished. My limbs and belly famished. This skin, these organs, this failing eyesight. When the battery runs out in my torch, I will descend into the caves and follow only the phosphorescence home.
I don't trust that cave. We already saw one creepy person. May there be 2. Or even 3 before this is done. And more tragically crashed ships.
The editor comments that at this point, Donnelly was going insane as syphilis tore through his system like a drunk driver. He's not to be trusted. Many of his claims are unsubstantiated, and although he does paint a colourful picture, much of what he says may have been derived directly from his fever. But I've been here, and I know, as Donnelly did, that this place is always half imagined. Even the rocks and caves will shimmer and blur with the right eyes.
Painting a beautiful picture. As one investigates these barren hills.
They found Jakobsen in early spring. The thaw had only just come. Even though he'd been dead nearly 7 months, his body had been frozen right down to the nerves and had not even begun to decompose. All around him, small flowers were reaching for the weak sun. The goats had adjusted happily to life without a shepherd and were grazing freely about the valley. Donnelly reports they hurled the body in fear and disgust down the shaft, but I cannot corroborate this story.
Because we could not go down the shaft ourselves. We had to come back. Now we walk the skeleton of what used to be a powerful ship, but is now just a husk.
Climbing down to the caves, I slipped and fell and have injured my leg. I think the femur is broken. It is clearly infected. The skin has turned a bright, tight pink, and the pain is crashing in on waves, winter tides against my shoreline, drowning out the ache of my stones. I struggled back to the bothy to rest, but it has become clear that there is only one way this is likely to end. The medical supplies I looted from the trawler have suddenly found their purpose. They will keep me lucid for my final ascent.
Some weird-ass chanting there now, isn't it? Oh, they look so beautiful. Look, it's like they're pristine. Alright. Geronimo.
Donnelly
Ow.
did not pass through the caves. From here on in, his guidance, unreliable as it is, has gone from me. I understand now that it is between the two of us and whatever correspondence could be drawn from the wet rocks.
The correspondence that can be drawn is that this place is brightly lit, and that this candle means that someone was here. Our torch has gone out. Oh, that's just so beautiful. More weird paintings with the bioluminescent mold and fungi that are found in this place.
I first saw him sat by the side of the road. I was waiting for you to be cut out of the wreckage. The car looked like it had been dropped from a great height. The guts of the engine spilled over the tarmac, like water underground.
That cannot be any type of mold. That has to be some sort of electronic schematic. Maybe like this? Doesn't look right. That doesn't look right either. That looks right. At least to me it does. But I do not have enough knowledge to know what that could even possibly be. Or what any of these symbols are trying to tell me. Gotta watch my head here. I don't want to dive down, but let's go for it. Seriously, this game is just, it is so beautiful. I love it. I just love how pretty it looks. Graphics aren't everything in a game, but this is a spectacular sight. I'm just gonna take a brief drink. Okay. It was delicious. My eyes might be playing tricks on me, but it looks like something's there. And even though that this is a very peaceful game, really, it's just gives you the chills. Like this would be very claustrophobic right here. Even more claustrophobia as we climb through this mushroom cave. Which has these nice little nodes of bioluminescence. Which leads out into this giant opening.
If the caves are my guts, this must be the place where the stones are first formed. The bacteria phosphoresce and rise, singing through the tunnels. Everything here is bound by the rise and fall, like a tide. Perhaps the whole island is actually underwater.
It's a piece of paper. It's a paper crane. Or a paper boat of some sort. Now another weird symbol. The Illuminati, perhaps? We will never know. The one thing I do know is that there's really nothing in these caves. Aside from more beautiful scenery. And the sweet music that we have going on here to accompany us. And there's that symbol again, another neuron. And that is a tree with an eye attached to it, which means it's an Illuminati tree. An arrow with two, like it's trying to go over that obstacle.
This is a drowned man's face, reflected in the moonlit waters. It can only be a dead shepherd who has come to drive you home.
So then, did the shepherd kill Esther? Or something on the way home? Behold, Damascus is taken, which I believe is actually a quote that I can look up. Hey. Let's open a new window. And then just a whole bunch of schematics. Maybe that's like the chip for rockets or something like that. It's a quote from the Bible. The burden of Damascus. Behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city, and it shall be a ruinous heap. Damascus is taken. Is the earth Damascus? Damascus is taken. More Damascus being taken. Damascus is taken away from being a city, and it shall be a ruinous heap. From the King James translation of the Bible. And these are supposed to be like glowworms, I believe. Now, I don't know what this Damascus is talking about or anything, but we're gonna have to go into the waters. Here goes nothing. We gotta save Damascus, for it will fall with the passing of Esther. And Geronimo! Where the hell am I? Portland Royal Portishead, Royal Portishead Dock? The entire world has drowned. But I need air. Badly. That must have been the highway where Esther died. Where the drunk shepherd must have hit them. It must be another part of this island. Or I could use the internet to look up what the heck Portishead even is. Apparently a band of some sort? I don't think that's what they meant. Ah, there we go. Portishead Town. Here we go. The moon just looks beautiful, reflecting off the
over
water.
The Sanford Junction, headlights in your retinas. Donnelly drove a grey hatchback without a bottom. All the creatures of the tarmac rose to sing to him. All manner of symbols crudely scrawled across the cliff face of my unrest. My life reduced to an electrical diagram. All my gulls have taken flight. They will no longer roost on these ashpots. The lure of the moon over the Sanford Junction is too strong.
There, my shepherd, watching my every move, ensuring that I can pass from this life to the next with ease.
I returned home with a pocket full of stolen ash. Half of it fell out of my coat and vanished into the car's upholstery. But the rest I carefully stowed away in a box I kept in a drawer by the side of my bed. It was never intended as a meaningful act, but over the years it became a kind of talisman. I'd sit still, quite still for hours, just holding the diminishing powder in my palm and noting its smoothness. In time, we will all be worn down into granules, washed into the sea and dispersed.
Truer things have never been said. I wonder what happened here. They lugged the car parts from the other side of the island? And you can see my shepherd is still there. Constantly watching over me.
All by the roadside, by the exit for Damascus, all ticking and cooled, all feathers and remorse, all of these signals routed like traffic through the circuit diagrams of our guts, those badly ridden boats torn bottomless in the swells, washing us forever ashore.
A light from heaven shone around him. another quote I can look up. Oh. Can I get back up on the shore? Thank you. So that was Isaiah 117 for the first quote. And now for this quote.
From here, I can see my armada. I collected all the letters I'd ever meant to send to you, if I'd have ever made it to the mainland, but had instead collected at the bottom of my rucksack, and I spread them out along the lost beach. Then I took each and every one, and I folded them into boats. I folded you into the creases, and then, as the sun was setting, I set the fleet to sail. Shattered into 21 pieces, I consigned you to the Atlantic, and I sat here until I'd watched all of you sink.
The English Standard Version of the Bible has this quote, Acts 9:3. Now as he went on his way, he approached Damascus, and suddenly a light from heaven shone around him. Who he is a mystery, but the only thing can be sure that these boats have traveled a long way if they came from the caves, or that one boat came from the cave. And you can even make out some of the writing if you look really closely. Unfortunately, I can't look that closely. Let's try descending into the water a little bit. No, I can't read out anything at all. Let's see if we have more. On a sudden, a light from heaven shone around him, and he fell to the ground. And so he was smote by God. So maybe Esther was smitten by God in his car crash that happened because a drunk shepherd from this island went to the mainland for supplies. And, well, the rest is history. And now this guy is just researching and spending the final path that Esther walked.
A sound of torn metal, teeth running over the edge of the rocks, a moon that casts a signal as I lay pinned beside you, the ticking of the cooling engine, and the calling from a great height, all my mind as a bypass.
It's odd that he just keeps fading in and out of when he is narrating and when he's not. And there, you can still see better my shepherd. Let's go say hi. Well, I guess we cannot. That's right, there's no jump button in this. Oh well, let me get at least a good look at him. There we go. Let's good look at him. And maybe now, in my final moments,
I've begun my voyage in a paper boat without a bottom. fly to the moon in it. I've been folded along a crease in time, a weakness in the sheet of life. Now you've settled on the opposite side of the paper to me. I can see your traces in the ink that soaks through the fiber, the pulped vegetation. When we become waterlogged and the cage disintegrates, we will intermingle. When this paper aeroplane leaves the cliff edge and carves parallel vapor trails in the dark, we will come together.
That rip in the sky is very suspicious. And as he was proceeding on his journey, and was come near to Damascus. And he was
If only
3
Donnelly had
days.
experienced this, he would have realized he was his own shoreline, as am I. Just as I am becoming this island, so he became his syphilis, retreating into the burning synapses, the stones, the infection.
And so he was with 3 days without sight, and neither did he eat nor drink. Now, I'm not very big on Bible verses, so I have absolutely no idea what this is all about. But let's take one last
The
visit.
stones in my stomach will weigh me down and ensure my descent is true and straight. I will break through the fog of these godforsaken pills and achieve clarity. All my functions are clogged, all my veins are choked. If my leg doesn't rot off before I reach the summit, it will be a miracle. There are 21 connections in the circuit diagram of the anti-lock brakes. There are 21 species of gull inhabiting these islands. It is 21 miles between the Sandford Junction and the turn-off for home. All these things cannot, will not be a coincidence.
I think the pills are making you a little loopy, pal. But oh well. And it came to pass that as he made my journey and was come high unto shit.
Come back.
It's a terrible railing. Doesn't even last the entire journey. Noon. Suddenly, there shone from heaven a light. A bright light around about me, and could not see.
A gull perched on a spent bonnet, sideways, whilst the sirens fell through the middle distance and the metal moaned in grief about us. I'm about this night in walking. Old bread and gull bones. Old Donnelly at the bar gripping his drink. Old Esther walking with our children. Old Paul as ever. Old Paul. He shakes and he shivers and he turns off his lights alone.
The narrator does not like Paul, I assume. Maybe Paul was the shepherd. I've forgotten at this point. Or with me. Came unto with me. Damascus. They did say Damascus would be a ruin. And here's our time.
I have run out of places to climb. I will abandon this body and take to the air.
Are you sure you can even do that? Or are the pills just making you
Dear
crazy?
Esther, I have burnt my belongings, my books, this death certificate. Mine will be written all across this island. Who was Jakobsen? Who remembers him? Donnelly has written of him, but who was Donnelly? Who remembers him? I have painted, carved, hewn, scored into this space all that I could draw from him. There will be another to these shores to remember me. I will rise from the ocean like an island without bottom, come together like a stone, become an aerial, a beacon, that they will not forget you. You've always been drawn here. One day the gulls will return and nest in our bones and our history. I will look to my left and see Esther Donnelly flying beside me. I will look to my right and see Paul Jakobsen flying beside me. They will leave white lines carved into the air to reach the mainland, where help will be sent.
And here we go. Our death. Look at all these beautiful portraits. The parallel white lines. And I take flight, knowing that my journey is complete. I am a beautiful gull that takes flight.
Come back.
Ah. Should be it.